And we're live. You're listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show.
Hosted by Brandon Davenport, aka It's Brandon D.
Well, hello everybody. Another week in HBAR, Hedera, Hashgraph, all that stuff. Yeah, what a week. And what a week so far. It's been an eventful June. We're reaching the halfway point to the year as well, which is like, for me, a very interesting thing. It's funny too. I'll actually just bring this up real quick. This is my little dog here, Georgia. Hey, Georgia. Hi. You gonna say hi to everybody? You gonna say hi to everybody? We'll check in on Georgia maybe later or something. But yeah, big show this week. I mean, the end of an era for Hedera. That's kind of what's been crossing my mind recently. And, I think that, the end of an era means the beginning of another, at the end of the day. And I think that there's many different ways to look at it. And the one thing that I can't get around is just this growing sense of change at the top. You know what I mean? And we're hearing this in so many different areas. I'll play a clip in a minute, but there's just so many signs and signals and sentiments and all sorts of different things that we're seeing out there in so many different areas. Bones, how's it going? Good to see you, man. If anyone wants to leave a comment, if you're watching on X and YouTube, we're live now on X and YouTube. Leave a comment. Also, maybe folks can call into the show today. There's a link here. Join the show. Hashgraph.news/call. Visit that in your browser or device. Join the show, audio and video, and we can have a chat about some stuff. I know we might have some people stopping by, but yeah, I think off the top, that's just kind of where my head's been at, these last few weeks. And I think something we touched on recent episodes is like, I don't think it's a case where something all of a sudden has happened in the ecosystem and like there's this big shock. It's kind of been a long time coming. I think that we've seen Hedera go through, the Hedera ecosystem go through some pretty fundamental changes at kind of like, the DNA level almost. And it kind of goes back to the Genesis, right? You had swirls. And then you had Hedera get created. And then you had a lot of the Hedera team leave to Swirlds Labs. And then you've got the HBAR Foundation. You've got the Hashgraph Association. It went from open review to open source and all of these kinds of things. So there's already been so much change. And I mean, in my mind, I think back to, the original investment thesis of Hedera. I mean, there's a lot of people that invested in HBAR, because it was patented. There's still so many different viewpoints. And also too, it's like, we've got people that have been in this ecosystem for a long time, like myself, that I think, opinions and ideas of what success looks like for the network and ways to get there, change a lot. I mean, admittedly, I was one of those early HBARbarians that would assume that, hey, you know, Hedera Hashgraph is just so far superior to anything out there. And now we're learning that there's so many different elements to everything. There's so many different aspects to all this, which is so important. And we got a bunch of news to get into, and we've got a bunch of updates and ecosystem types of stuff. But we do have a caller come in. IPEX, I want to bring you up real quick, and maybe we can see what's going on. I know IPEX, you've been doing a ton of spaces and conversations in the community about so many different things. How's it going? It's good to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, Brendan. I just saw you went live and I decided to jump on the call. I can't stick around too long, but I just want to say I appreciate you running these broadcasts. I'm going to be starting to buy some equipment, set up some broadcasts sooner. Here myself, I'm looking forward to getting in on it now that X has live streams as well. I don't have a YouTube set up yet, but I think I'm watching what you're doing there, and yeah, I mean it's super awesome. We need way more content creators. We just we're chatting about you in the HBAR Foundation space right before this. So yeah, wow. Hats off to you, brother. And yeah, we need more content creators in the ecosystem for sure, brother.
Thanks. I wish I could have tuned into that. I know that like Grelf was speaking and the HBAR Bull was speaking. It sounded like it was a bit of a clinic on content creation, which I think is so important. And the reality is like the actual broadcast portion of it, like all this stuff is like, it's not really that hard when you figure it out. I think the hard part is like researching all the news, staying up to date with everything, knowing what people want to hear about, what they don't want to hear about. I'm learning more and more too. Like it's almost like the less prep that I do for the show, the better and smoother it is. So it's like takes years to find that flow. But I mean, you've been doing community spaces like so consistently. I feel like almost every day it feels like, so I think that you're ready for that next level. 100%. It'd be awesome to see the upgrades coming.
Yeah, brother. I really appreciate that. It's funny you said, so we do host them every day, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m.
Right
EST, but yeah, no, I appreciate that, Brendan. I know you've been hosting them super consistently every Wednesday around this time as well. And yeah, I mean, the community needs places to go essentially to be able to just stay up to date with what's going on in the ecosystem, you know? And yeah, I mean, we want to be able to just kind of continue to point people in different directions. So we talk about your show and try to point people over here. And I'm trying to make the decision because I don't think you can do spaces and broadcast at the same time. And I'm used to, you know, like going to the hands and bringing people up. So this is definitely a different format for sure. And that's one of the biggest reasons I haven't moved over yet. So still trying to figure that out. But this is my first time actually jumping up to see how it looks and feels. So yeah, definitely appreciate you being one of the only ones in Hedera so far doing broadcasts. And we can kind of see what's going on your end for sure, brother.
Right on. And before you go, I just have to say on that is I'm not the only one kind of stepping into this new zone with the broadcasting. It's like Genfinity is doing a really good job. Also,
yeah, they are.
HBAR Foundry is doing a great job. Like the first stream that I did this new setup on was actually a conversation that I had with the HBAR Foundry talking about HIP 920 for music metadata standards. So that was like my test run for it. So I think that you're right. I think there's a wave of content creators on Hedera, both kind of new folks coming in, but then people that have been here for a long time, just like growing their shows and doing more of it. So like, just again, massive shout out to you, all the stuff you're doing. Every time I see you going live, I try to sneak out and tune in and stuff. So it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for stopping by, man.
Awesome, brother. Well, shout out to you as well, and keep up the grind. I mean, it's awesome, and it's I know some people are saying, oh, like certain people don't deserve certain credit or whatever, you know, but clearly you do. A bunch of other people that have been creating content. I mean, massive shout out everyone. If you guys aren't tuning in, set your reminders, mark your calendars, all that good stuff. If you're on Twitter, like and retweet it, show your support. You guys know how it goes. But Brandon, it's great to see you, and I'll drop off now. Have a great day, brother. Have a great stream.
Ron, cheers. Appreciate you. Yeah, it's so fun when people call. It's so weird. IPEX is right. It's like the new flow for the show. It's, you know, Twitter Spaces is kind of a little, maybe a little easier in a way or something. and I guess just habitual for a lot of people. A lot of folks are familiar with it. This is kind of uncharted territory in a lot of ways. I'm going to try to make it as smooth as possible for people to hop on the show on audio and video and stuff. I think it'll get better and better. And I know some other folks might stop by. So yeah, if you want to call into the show, hashgraph.news/call, type it in on your device, pop into the show. It's easy peasy. And a big note too, a piece of feedback I get, don't worry, if you go to call into this show, you're not just going to all of a sudden appear on camera or appear on the stream. You kind of go into like a green room where I can see you and then bring you up. So you don't need to, worry about just like being thrown into it. You have a minute to kind of like get your settings right and everything. So, yeah. So, and also two folks, listening in or watching on X and YouTube. Yeah. When BlackRock buy version 2, I don't know. I actually on that, just kind of on the ETF, like institutional, stuff. Let's go into a little bit of news here. Cause there's some really exciting stuff on that front. And one of those things was, the new HBAR ETP from Valor Funds, and in partnership with the Hashgraph Association. They've rung the bell for the launch of the new Hedera crypto certificate. So this is the Valor Hedera HBAR tracks the price of HBAR, the native token of the Hedera network. So this is a product on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, where you can effectively have exposure to HBAR. So it's kind of like, people are kind of like, oh, it's an ETP. It's not an ETF. It's, exchange traded fund ETF, exchange traded product. They're kind of the same. I think that what we're seeing here is, a wave of these new financial products like the Bitcoin ETF, like the supposed Ethereum ETF, all these different types of things, this HBAR ETP. There's so many different things kind of coming now. It feels like things are changing quite quickly. It's nice to see Hedera kind of riding that wave. I mean, a shout out to Hashgraph Association for grabbing the surfboard, it seems, to ride the wave. I love over there, they've got the bull and the bear. That's pretty funny. But yeah, you can go on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange and get exposure to HBAR. That's pretty cool. Shout out to Crypto Commentary. First time tuning in, but appreciate everything you do for the community. I appreciate you for tuning in. I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have people listening to the show. So really appreciate you guys. Thank you. What else we got going on here? Let's dive into it. So some more kind of news and updates. This was really cool. DavinciGraph. This is a project on Hedera that really provides, I think, a lot of tooling and utility for a lot of different retail projects, DeFi applications. Many projects utilize their token lockups, and they've just done some updates to the platform. So DavinciPix version 2. This is kind of like imagery for different crypto assets in your wallet. So the logo of your coin, they got some new features there. This was kind of interesting. Imagine having a GIF as the image for your crypto coin. That'd be interesting. Metadata creator, right? That's pretty cool. Token creator. So DavinciGraph, yeah, they have a lot of different tools and resources for creators on Hedera, either trying to, create fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens, trying to grow a community, trying to grow a project. So shout out to DavinciGraph. That was pretty awesome to see. Let me see here. What else we got? Oh yeah, this is just on that topic. This is great to see. So we've been talking a lot recently about token listings. We saw last week that there were the PAC token, the sauce token, actually over the last few weeks, like PAC token and sauce token, the PAC token for Hashpack, sauce for Saucer Swap, and a few others. A big point of contention, I think, for this community, for retail, is the accessibility of not only HBAR, but also other coins on Hedera. Because as we know, and kind of the president of Hedera, Charles Atkins, recently said, meme coins are a critical part of growing this ecosystem. If you were to ask really anybody out there, hey, how'd you get into crypto? And whether that's a C-level person in the industry or whether that's just an artist or a developer or whatever, community member, a lot of times it's like, oh, I got into crypto because of Doge or because of Pepe coin or because of whatever. It's always a meme coin. It's always something flashy. It's a necessary thing. And the reality is that the people, the liquidity, the energy coming into Hedera is probably, the vehicle for that is probably not going to be HBAR, right? HBAR is the protocol token for paying for things on the network. But the reasons that you come to the Hedera ecosystem is going to be all sorts of different stuff. Right now, we've got a growing DeFi ecosystem. We're going to talk about borrowing and lending and stuff as well. But also, we've got an NFT ecosystem. We've got all sorts of different tooling and, enterprise stuff aside, we've got some stuff coming together, but we need to get accessibility for so many of these other coins that are these kind of meme coins. So this was actually pretty great to see. Grelf is getting listed, or is currently, I can't remember exactly when this happened. This tweet might have been put out yesterday. So we might be rocking very soon or potentially already, but Grelf, obviously the meme coin that needs no introduction. I've had Grelf on the show many times. Getting listed on CoinStore, right? This makes Grelf the first meme coin from Hedera listed on a centralized exchange. And that's pretty exciting. I think that's pretty big. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of people, hey, hi, Greg. Good to see you tuning in. A lot of people, I think, don't see the value in that. And when I say a lot of people, what I mean more so is kind of that camp of HBARbarian that's kind of like that OG mentality, or very enterprise focused, or kind of like, we don't need retail or whatever. And the reality is that that's what's making money on the network, right? The only reason Hedera has any money is because of retail. It's not enterprise paying the bills. It's not at my IO that's subsidized, right? It's retail. That's what's making the network money. That's what's making things work. Why not invest more in retail? And as we've talked about, I'd also encourage people to go back and listen to the last 2 episodes of the show, because we go in deep on this with some great guests. But the reality is that if something's working really well, you should probably invest more in it, right? Like, that's the logical thing. It's like, oh, wow, this stuff is making our network money. This stuff is growing our network. The governing council isn't bringing new people into the ecosystem, right? Enterprise is not doing that. It is retail, right? DEXs, NFTs, communities. That's why people are coming to Hedera. We're well past the point of people going, oh, HBAR is the future, I'm going to buy and hold HBAR. That's not the reality now. The reality is that this is a growing, thriving retail ecosystem, potentially with a lot of good potential. And we really have to elevate that. And I mean, it's on the governing council to understand that. It's on all of us to really tap into that. And it's not about hypotheticals. It's not about ideology. It's literally just, this is a fact. This is where we're seeing success. We need to invest more in it. And it's probably, if you're an HBAR holder, it's probably unwise to not dive into or support these initiatives, even if you don't want to buy meme coins. Like, for example, if I was somebody, I was sitting on a big stack of HBAR and I was going, oh, we don't need meme coins. Oh, we don't need this. We don't need, it's all scams. It's all this. It's all that. That's the worst thing you could be doing for your investment, right? You don't need to buy any of this stuff, but it's just, the reality is that there are just things that work. There are just, like, I think that a lot of times in the past, we've tricked ourselves into thinking that Hedera is some kind of like gigantic, monolithic, epic, like global enterprise behemoth. But like, the reality is Hedera is like, relatively, in comparison to the top rankings of networks, a relatively small crypto project in beta with not a ton of TVL and not a ton of volume, right? It's a project that just has incredible potential, but that's how it's seen by venture capitalists, all those different types of things. On the flip side, enterprise, I mean, to be honest, Hedera kind of has that on lock. Like that's not a part of this discussion, right? I don't think that's what the community is talking about. I think that a lot of people get mistaken in thinking, oh, they're saying that we got to drop enterprise. We have to focus on retail. That's just not the case. The reality is that I think over these 6 years, Hedera's done actually a pretty great job of onboarding enterprise and getting things plugged in. Like the reality is as we know, it just enterprise takes forever. But also, as we know, it's enterprise that's asking for retail. Like there's a whole other layer to this, which is people will argue, no, we still have to prioritize enterprise. We can't focus on retail. But the reality is it's not just degens and community members and these folks asking for retail activity growth in those areas. It's literally enterprise, right? It's enterprise saying, you guys need more liquidity. You guys need more tooling. You guys need more value locked on the network. You need these things. You need retail. That's what enterprise is asking, right? And our answer shouldn't be, no, we want you, because they're clearly laying out what they need to move forward. And it really brings into clarity when you go like, I don't get it. Why are people building on, why is, so-and-so BlackRock or whatever building on Solana when they could build on Hedera? It's so much better. Why are they building? It's because that's where the money is. It's that simple. That's where the things are happening. It's not the best technology that wins. It's the best situation. It's the best offer, right? And right now, I think that Hedera is so strong in so many areas. I don't think it's a situation where it's like we've gone wrong or something like that in a dramatic way. I really think that it's time to just wake up to the realities. And I say this personally because you have to be willing to change and you have to be willing to admit that like you're just wrong about stuff. As an HBARbarian, I was wrong about a lot. When I first got into HBAR and Hedera in whatever it was, 2020 or something like that. My thinking, and I think a lot of people's thinking was, well, this is the one. It's the technology's so incredible. Look at the connections that they have. The Lehman and Mance are just geniuses, and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people felt about their favorite project at that time. And the winners are the ones that understood that fines are a marketing expense. They weren't scared of getting in trouble. Hedera does have a very conservative approach, which I think appealed to a lot of people, including myself. But you can't get stuck, right? You like no matter what network you're all about, whether it's Hedera or Algorand or Cardano or Ethereum, whatever it is, the nature of this industry is constant change, chaos, right? You have to be able to tap into that. You have to be able to change your thinking, and you have to understand that the network you're invested in just will not stay the same. Survival of these networks depends on constant change, and sometimes really substantial change. Sometimes like a 1 step backward, 2 step forward kind of thing. And that's, I think, the common denominator between the networks that we see being very successful and the networks that we see not being very successful. Is the networks that are willing to kind of like put their head up and go, hey, what they're doing is really working. I think we're going to do that too. Even though maybe it wasn't factored in originally. It's just the way things go. It's like that with technology and the technology industry in general. It's just a weird industry because it moves so fast in this day and age. It's just so you can go up different layers and think about AI and the fact that, computer science majors aren't getting hired as much as anymore. And all of these different changes, you really kind of have to work your way back and go, Hedera is probably going to change like everything else. And I think that what we're all feeling right now is kind of like a reality check. That's kind of how it's felt to me. And I think that like many, my initial feeling when these recent weeks was, oh man, like this sucks, you know, and morale is still down a bit, I think. And to be honest, it's pretty depressing. Last few episodes of the show have been really hard to do. And I think that the pain for me, and I think the pain for a lot of people, is just a disconnect, right? I think that there's so many people that believe so much in this network and the vision and the technology. And I think that we're just learning that a lot of people we depend on maybe don't believe in it as much. And that's kind of the feeling that we're getting. And it's a really depressing feeling, because the reality is that, you know, this project, the Hedera project, this industry, of course, it's technology, it's numbers, it's science, you know, but also it's emotion. You know, a huge component of this whole industry is emotion, and it can tear you apart, or it can be the ultimate expediting factor. It can launch you into the stratosphere, and you just can't ignore it. The Hedera ecosystem has changed so much. There's new people inside of it. And it's just no longer the days of being in a Telegram chat talking about who the next governing council member is going to be or when TPS is going to go up. It's really about thinking bigger. And this is another thing that, again, the president of Hedera, and I think a lot of people are talking about the president of Hedera right now, but Charles Atkins, he said this, you know, he said that I lost my train of thought there for a second. Sorry. There's a comment that came in on here. One second. Let me just see here. So someone asked, this just got my brain going in a whole other different direction. I'll work my way back to it eventually. So they asked, should Hedera be rebranded? If not in its name, then perhaps its visual identity and broader ethos and messaging. And yeah, your brain kind of goes there. You know, like you start to think about that stuff. You're kind of like, well, if we really feel like all this stuff is changing, what is that going to look like? And I think that's where a lot of kind of the anxiety comes in, right? That's where a lot of the anxiety comes in, because the unknown is like really hard to think about, especially when a lot of people have put a ton on the line for this network. It's hard to think like, oh, okay, stuff's going to change. And I really, feel it's going to change. And, one thing that I'll bring up, and Zach also too, Zach, has a point too. Zach, shout out to you. You're always tuning into the show. Y'all need to chill, right? Every network is going through pains right now. That's what Zach says. And that's true as well. And you know, Zach, I'm talking about my own personal kind, like going through the last few weeks. And maybe too, I have a unique perspective because like I talk to so many people in the ecosystem that are both high up and right at the community level. So I feel things in this network pretty intensely. But yeah, I think that's the reality check here as well, is like, you know, if you take a step back and you take a look at it, I think it's pretty tough out there for quite a few people. So that's a good perspective, is it's also a shared experience, right? And I think that is something that's important to remember, is like literally we're not alone. We're kind of in this together in a way. And I think that's what a lot of people really need to embrace as well, is like, you know, we see that with the DREC Alliance and different stuff like that, these networks. There's a lot, I would say that there's a little less tribalism between L1s, which is good. And the reality is like, that can be another power source as well, right? I think people talk about cross-chain, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of areas to draw power from in these ways. But we had a call come into the show just in time because I was starting to get a little depressed here. We had Bonzo Finance just call into the show, and I'm excited to chat about Bonzo Finance. Brady's like, hey, I can wait. You know, I can bring you up. No, Brady, please switch on your camera. Let's dive into it. I gotta get off this train of thought for a minute. I want to talk about some of the stuff you guys are working on. So if you're there, feel free to pop up. So Bonzo Finance, let's switch topics. By the way, I've been seeing the INO stuff going out. People are posting pictures of their monkeys, all that kind of stuff. And I grabbed mine. Shout out to Headstarter. That minting process was super smooth. But I saw that thread that you guys put out about the importance of borrowing and lending. I think it's like that sector represents like, 40 some odd % of value on other crypto networks and stuff. And you kind of speak to like, I think like a drastic underestimation of the impact that borrowing and lending is going to have on the Hedera ecosystem. And yeah, like how's it going? How's the INO going? And then I'd love to hear kind of like your thoughts on all this kind of stuff, because it does feel like the borrowing and lending wave is coming.
Yeah, no doubt. And thanks for the shout out. Yeah, it's definitely been an exciting week. We've got the INO sale that's running through to the end of the week, and we've sold out so far on the space Bonzo. Wow. We put out that thread yesterday talking about sort of the importance of lending and borrowing. I think foundationally, and we saw this when Saucer Swap Labs launched also, is that when a new category of DeFi comes online, I think it's really important for users in the Hedera ecosystem to sort of understand the functionalities of these new DeFi categories, the types of things that you can anticipate being able to do with them, the impact that they're going to have across the landscape of the DeFi ecosystem, and sort of what we're seeing on other networks and in other ecosystems that maybe have more established functionalities and more established abilities for people to partake in. And so, yeah, that thread was like a really good breakdown of sort of how we're viewing lending and borrowing and the anticipated impacts that it's going to have for DeFi on Hedera. And it really is an outsized impact. So, that chart that you referenced shows TVL across every category of DeFi amongst the entire Web3 space. And, there is an outsized amount of TVL that's allocated to lending and borrowing just because of, the nature of these types of protocols. They're single asset pools, which creates a relatively lower sort of risk for people who are supplying liquidity to those pools, in the sense that, if you're supplying it to a lending and borrowing protocol versus supplying it to a DEX, there's no impermanent loss with lending right. when you're supplying that asset. And you do experience a little bit of that with decentralized exchanges. And so, what we think this helps unlock is large token holders that are trying to find places to manage those funds, and ideally receive yield and do risk management and other types of activities, while at the same time also sort of unlocking that liquidity for the rest of the ecosystem. And so that may be project treasuries, large token holders of these token-based projects, like employees or big investors, and then also institutional capital like market makers. There isn't really discussed a lot openly, but there are a significant number of market makers supporting token-based projects on the Hedera network, and they're supplying liquidity to these protocols. They're helping create market efficiencies for the tokens of these token-based projects. There's a number of different activities that they're participating in, and we've been in discussions with various market makers as well to try to sort of understand types of activities that they're doing and what they can do in terms of contributing to Bonzo Finance's TVL. Ultimately, it just opens up the door to so much more that can be done on the Hedera network. than just having the DEX functionality. As important as the DEX functionality is and the foundation that it's laid, we have to break into these new types of DeFi categories in order to really expand further.
Yeah, like we talk about, hey, let's build an economy on Hedera and all these types of things. And, I think that there's a lot of really kind of, bright people that still kind of miss it a little bit. And I think also in the thread you mentioned, I think a reality that also we really also have to accept that I think is kind of cool is the fact that a lot of HBARbarians are kind of fresh to this stuff. They've never really operated in these ways on other networks, and that's tough because you kind of have to start fresh with a lot of these people. And you mentioned too, like Saucer Swap's approach, focusing on education, the stuff that you guys are doing, letting people play around and learn. But also I think that has kind of its own benefits of like, they're not arriving with the dogma from other experiences. They're really kind of, there's a freshness to it. Do you kind of see it that way? Like, is it all bad that Hedera ecosystem participants are kind of new to all this? Is it really just a challenge, or is it potentially kind of like an opportunity in a way, do you think?
It's both. The opportunity here is that, we're educating the community along the way, and I think that's great. Folks are able to learn more, and with that knowledge, they're also probably or hopefully going to other networks and other ecosystems and applying that knowledge and making connections with other communities and individuals. And in those conversations, talking about Hedera. And ultimately, we need that. We need the sort of mind share of Hedera and what's happening here to be spread far and wide across other communities. The downside of it is that the ramp up period for some of these new DeFi protocols and projects can be a bit slower. Without experience, knowledge of how to use this stuff, day one for anything that's new is gonna take a bit for traction to take place.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because again, some people that maybe are like against some of the stuff or don't get it, it's like, if you zoom out and just think about an economy, like let's say like the American economy, it's like, what happens if you remove borrowing and lending? It's like, that's the whole economy. So there's also another side to it of like, it's just reality. It's like, there's a reason other crypto ecosystems do borrowing and lending, is because it's literally a critical part of any economy. So we're not talking about some kind of like new feature or some kind of toy or thing to play around with. Like, this is actually like a fundamental aspect to a functioning economy. Like, I don't think that Hedera can grow in the way that we want it to grow without borrowing and lending. It's the same way of like, how do you grow a real world economy without borrowing and lending,
Well, right. And I think that's the shift, the mindset shift also that needs to take place at many levels throughout the Hedera network. And, I'd say particularly, at the council level, understanding that the network itself is a economy. We need to be treating the network as an economy, and we need to be supporting businesses that are setting up shop to be able to facilitate that. It's an incredibly important aspect of it. Ultimately, probably one of the most important aspects of the way that we're thinking. Each of these networks is sort of like its own nation state in a sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then, so the other thing is that kind of jumps out to me. And I know that's like, forward-looking statements and stuff, but like the numbers are pretty clear. Like, you lay out that 44% of all TVL in Web3 is borrowing and lending, and it's 1.5x of DEXs. So basically like 1.5 times the amount of impact that DEXs have on these networks. And then when we think about the impact that decentralized exchanges have had in the Hedera ecosystem, that's really felt like a 0 to 60 moment. Like when we had Stater come in, and then we had Saucer Swap come in, and then we had some other DEXs, like it really felt like the ecosystem went from 0 to 60 overnight in some ways, and unlocked so many doors for people. And when you talk about people underestimating the fact of that. What the numbers show is, at the very least, to meet the average is like, put simply for people in this ecosystem, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, it sounds like what we're looking at is the impact of borrowing and lending on the Hedera ecosystem is going to be, 1.5x the impact that the DEXs have been. Like if the numbers are to translate to this ecosystem, the best way I think I can describe to people is like that feeling we got with DEXs in the ecosystem. It's going to be that plus another 50%. It's going to be bigger than that in some ways if the numbers kind of add up. And I guess that's kind of what you're saying is like, you're saying to people like, hey, I think you might be underestimating the impact of borrowing and lending.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that message came through clearly, which is what we're trying to get across, is that I think it's being underestimated in terms of the potential impact, based on everything that we're seeing across other networks and then across Web3 as a whole. The thing that I think is critical for the success of the DeFi ecosystem is overall liquidity. And it's hard to tell at what point we are sort of maxing out on that liquidity availability, just based on the total sort of number of users and the capital that those users are using to play in the ecosystem. And ultimately, we need more users and more capital coming into this ecosystem. And my thinking is that the biggest unlock for that is legitimate, robust bridging infrastructure that's ubiquitous across the entire space. And our long-term plan and what we're banking on is that is coming online. There's the partnership with XLR that was made by HBAR Foundation that looks amazing. And with that eventually coming online soon, that opens up the door to awareness of the Hedera network and people being able to bridge assets over inexpensively and through a bridge that they're already familiar with. Hashport has done a great job so far, with facilitating that, but ultimately you can't have enough bridge integrations, and you need bridges that people are familiar with that are bridging tons of assets, not just between Hedera and X network, Hedera and Y network, Hedera and Z network. You need bridges where people are bridging funds across all of these different networks as well. And there's major adoption for those bridges. And so I'm most bullish about this bridging infrastructure that's going to come online.
Yeah, I just saw Tom leave a comment. Give me a bridge to Solana. I think that's something but what you're saying is we need more bridges. I think that there's so many other ecosystems that have, I guess it's safe to say sometimes a dozen or dozens of bridges in all sorts of different ways. Hedera kind of has the drawbridge, and I mean, I don't know what we would have done without Hashport. So I mean, huge shout out to those guys. But what you're saying is we need more bridges, and we need those bridges to go more places, and we need that stat. And the challenges that I hear in a lot of different ways is the market's too small, or the funding isn't there. And it's this, everyone says it's the catch-22, it's the chicken and the egg. It's what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. You have to start with having that bridge infrastructure available. There's upfront costs associated with it, but if it's not there, then we can't do anything. The people that are driving interest in utilizing their protocols like Saucer Swap, like Hella Swap, like Bonzo Finance, our mission is to try and attract new users to the ecosystem through various campaigns that we would be running. And if there's no user journey and clear, simple path for people to bridge their assets into Hedera as easy as possible, then we can't grow. And we need that, at least have that sort of path available, and then allow the developers in the network, the people who are behind some of these protocols, to really sort of help drive that liquidity being bridged over. And if you look at, there's a map that's going around that shows the siphoning of liquidity across networks using bridging infrastructure, and I think it was specifically Wormhole. massive amounts of liquidity being driven from Ethereum to Solana, which is part of the reason why their economy has been thriving so much. Is they have those bridges in place to be able to have a foundation for users to be able to come over and capital to be siphoned and brought into their network. And so we need that so bad. And the other thing too is I think you can run liquidity incentive campaigns all day long, but you currently have a finite set of users who are earning rewards from those liquidity campaigns. And if you're not making those incentives more easily accessible to new users who are coming in, then it just ends up being a Hedera community incentive reward program, which I don't think is the the goal. We're running these campaigns because it's attracting new users and new capital, and that's incredibly important.
Huge. And I think we're touching on something here, which is like, I gave the show the title today, the end of an era for Hedera. And it's like, I put that out and I got some DMs from people like, Jesus, dude, like what the fuck? And so for me, it's, I titled it that because, and I was talking about at the start of the show is like, there's definitely been this pressure building in the ecosystem of, gone are the days of, when's the next governing council member coming? How much more TPS are we going to get? Those are fun days, the early days, simpler times. But now things have moved on. And I think there's this pressure that's been building. And over the last few weeks, I think we've seen things kind of reach a bit of a breaking point from the top to the bottom. And for me, when I say the end of an era, it's like that implies the beginning of something else. And I mean, you have so much experience in this ecosystem. And from your perspective, do you kind of feel that way too? I get that sense in the community and from yourself, like, do you kind of feel that, this summer marks kind of a bit of a transition period for Hedera into potentially something new, something evolved? It does feel like, there's just this huge focus on retail, the lights being shined on all these different areas where there's deficit. There's been many wake up calls. There's people that are like, screw meme coins. And then you've got the president of Hedera saying like, we need meme coins. And there's there's all these different things happening. Do you kind of feel that way too? That, these last few weeks and kind of where we're at right now does feel like we're getting to the end of a bit of an era in Hedera in a way?
Yes. Key individual leadership at some of these organizations, that I've talked with, they understand the shift that needs to take place. They recognize the importance of retail users and meeting the market, the public blockchain market where it exists today, while also recognizing we have to evolve with the market as it matures. But you have to address things as they exist today in order to even make it to tomorrow. And we've learned that. We know that that's the truth. A great example of that is that, USDC liquidity and utilization, that is mostly driven by, retail and institutional users. And if you do not have enough, and Tom is citing here CCTP and Wormhole, if you don't have enough USDC liquidity or utilization, then centralized exchanges, they don't care to list the USDC for that network on there because they're not going to get enough trading fees related to that. They don't prioritize it. Circle CCTP says, well, you guys have barely any liquidity. Why would we spend a ton of resources and time and money on integrating Hedera and CCTP when you're the second to lowest
it's funny
liquidity
when I was at
USDC?
ETH Denver, I was at the Circle booth and I was like, oh, tell me more about CCTP. Are you guys working on Hedera? They're like, hey, here's a t-shirt.
Right. Yeah. And so it's retail that's driving that, and ultimately USDC on a long timeline, that is a very much so a banking and an enterprise use case, but Circle's addressing the market as it exists today and providing this service to retail users, and chains and retail users on those chains are taking advantage of it and driving innovation around it. And Without that piece, then there's no attention that can be given to the Hedera network and its version of USDC. So yeah, ultimately, again, it's about meeting the market where it exists today. And although I do see a big shift, and it is sort of the dawn of a new era or the end of a previous era.
Yeah.
As mentioned, leadership, individual leadership at certain organizations that have spoken publicly about this and that I've talked to, they get it. The problem that I see is, does council understand the market that they're competing in? And I can't tell today. I'm uncertain. It doesn't feel like there's a stake in the ground with regards to their understanding of the market, their strategy, their positioning. They have an outsized impact on the direction of the network and the success of the network. And if they don't get it, then that absolutely is a problem. And so I would love to better understand that. And maybe behind the scenes there is a lot going on with related to that. But we do have to understand, what the strategy is there, I think. And are they on board with what the rest of the ecosystem seemingly appears to be moving in with regards to direction?
Yeah. I think that that's a huge point for people is like
the ticker is hilarious, by the way. The governing council might not be based.
I try to like play them off so smooth and ignore them. It's so hard, but yeah. Okay. Joke's over now. So what I was going to say is there's something that I as a tangible example for people of the disconnect there is, I think I've told the story in the show before, but it makes a lot of sense. Is like when I was at ETH Denver, politics aside, the presidential candidate RFK did that talk. It was like a big deal. There were thousands of people in the crowd, blah, blah, blah. And like any candidate, he's like, there's these evil companies that are, hurting our health, or the military industrial complex. And he's listing these companies and they're so bad and everyone's cheering and like, yeah. And I'm like, I think about the Hedera booth down the hall with like a number of those companies just on there. Our network's owned by these people. And I'm just kind of like, is there going to be a riot at the Hedera booth later? Like, you know what I mean? Like I was a little worried, but it's that disconnect. And it's not to say that the governing council is bad. I think that the governing council is a huge reason why we've got the traction and enterprise that we've had. Like I'm trying to make a point for people to understand, like the conversation about retail isn't about, don't do enterprise. Like the reality is that I think that Hedera is doing a really great job at getting the enterprise flywheel going, but like, yeah, it does take forever. What do we do in the meantime? And it's, for me, I'm realizing that it's a little bit less about, do we go the enterprise pathway or do we go the retail pathway? We've learned that, retail gets us to enterprise. It turns out retail is the thing that gets us there. And then we know that because we hear from enterprise and they say, you need retail. And so
exactly.
The wrong response is to be like, no, we want you. It's like enterprise is like, no, we want retail. So it's a huge component of that.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. It's a stepping stone to enterprises. You need retail and you need, the space is still incredibly early and technologies are still maturing very much so. And what we see today, ultimately isn't what mainstream adoption and enterprise adoption looks like in the future. We need innovation that's taking place on the network and maturity to organically happen for eventually enterprises to collapse into. And we've seen this time and time again in every emerging technology sector, where it starts out with, startups, smaller organizations, innovators, people who are taking high degrees of risk to do what they're doing. And then it evolves over time, and then enterprises collapses into it. And like the public cloud market is a great example of that. If you go look at AWS DEX from when they first launched, for many years at the beginning, it was small organizations that they were catering to, and the product evolved over time with those small organizations and got bigger and bigger. And then eventually enterprises employed their digital transformation strategies, and as part of that, adopted public cloud. And now public cloud is just absolutely ubiquitous. You have to have a public cloud and even like a multi-cloud strategy. If you're a large organization, public cloud is even being used by governments for secure public cloud, and so I have no doubt that because of the transformational impact of this technology, that the sort of disruption that we've seen in past industries is going to be the same for this industry. And ultimately, I think that there's going to be the emergence of new companies that do end up eating the lunch of enterprise. These companies are based on Web3 business models where they can extract the fullest value of the technology and pass that value on to end users. And enterprises will need to adapt to that in some way, shape, or form. That's not to say that there won't be sort of like integrations that take place where maybe it's like BlackRock or another institution sort of has a mix of the two, where it's still a Web2 business model, but maybe they've tokenized assets on blockchain for various efficiencies. But ultimately, it's a disruptive technology, and looking at past disruptive technologies, I think we have to treat it the same.
100%. I want to shake up the conversation a little bit. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, WarlockNKey calling in to join the big brains here, talking about the future of Hedera and all that good stuff. Let's get charged up. How you doing, man? I saw you were on HBAR Foundation Spaces doing a clinic on content creation. How was that?
I was, I had to come in late because I was my job, regular boy job, is not to pretend to be a bald man with a speech impediment. My regular job is I work like Brady for a lending protocol. It's on the Flare network. So I had a meeting with Flare, the people behind the network, at 11. So I had to come in a bit late. But I was able to say, I think, 3 or 4 sentences, which was really exciting.
Nice.
And then I had to immediately leave for a live stream with King Solomon, where I was repping Kinetic and showing people, hey, this is a real thing, taking them to the interface, explaining a little bit, because a lot of people, DeFi hasn't really started on Flare. So it's a lot of people don't know much of things. It's not like Hedera, where you had like years before a lending protocol shows up. DeFi starts, and then there was so much time before we got to our other primitive, which didn't really make sense. With Flare, it's kind of like all trying to happen around the same time, which is exciting, but a lot of education is needed.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's oracles were never available on Hedera until just this year, which I don't want to sound too negative or whatever, but going back to the concept of council, having Chainlink on the council, it's wild to me that wasn't heavily prioritized initially. Super happy that we've got Supra and Pyth oracles now, and my understanding is Chainlink is still in the works, but we'll see. So yeah, definitely, again, bullish on this new sort of era that we're coming to. Having those Oracle integrations definitely opens the door to a lot.
Yeah, I think that was really weird on the council for half a decade and didn't build anything. I think that we've heard many people on the council, such as Rob Allen and different stuff like that, kind of like, let's build some stuff on this network that you own, and
yeah, a lot of people blame Chainlink for that. And I'm sure that Chainlink's integration costs are not cheap, right? But I think that the main reason Chainlink hasn't been integrated yet, it's probably, like you said, in the works. I would say now that we have other oracles, it's almost certainly in the works, because it is silly. I think it's probably they didn't want to write that check, and that ties back to kind of the core thing of all of our problems, which is they did not think they needed retail. At all.
Yeah, right. Initially. Yeah, I'd agree. What's interesting though is we're already seeing even if you can claim that you don't need retail, there are many enterprise applications and use cases that need oracles. So I'd argue even then, like, you still, there should be a recognition. Maybe they didn't need them right at the time and there wasn't anyone building anything related to oracles. And so that was why. But talking about sort of the maturing and evolution of these different components of blockchain, oracles is absolutely one that will continue to proliferate and be a key primitive for both retail, obviously today, but then also enterprise adoption in the future. You have to have that.
And something that people miss is that enterprises use things built for retail, right? Like you're talking about. We know enterprises use Hashpack, for example. And we know, more importantly, that if we don't get a giraffe within the next few months, Hedera is dead. Dead in the water.
This is true.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
I'm not talking about, we're going to donate to some foundation. No, we want a physical giraffe, not something digital. We're not talking about a 3D model. We want a giraffe, folks. I want to be able to touch it. I want to be able to pet it. I want to see them spots with these eyes, buddy, not through a screen. No. You could have gotten off easy earlier, okay? Hedera, HBAR Foundation, Swirlds, the DLT Science Foundation that nobody knows what you do. You could have gotten off early, if you acted on this, right? No, we want a giraffe. You're lucky I'm saying just one, okay? Wow. We want a real one. We all need someone to look up to, okay? We need some leadership. And who better than someone with a blue prehensile tongue, right? Okay? So deliver the giraffe for us.
No, I think that for me, this is the part that I don't think the governing council or Hedera gets, is like, the power that lies in the Hedera Twitter account changing their profile picture to a giraffe. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's stuff like that I think just, they don't have the juice for that, of just like, that's what's required in crypto, is like a wholesome chaos. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have that. And I hope that Hedera is getting the muscles to be able to do stuff like that, and not kind of be like, well, we can't change our profile picture to a giraffe because of regulations and it's like those types of things.
It doesn't even make any sense. Like, that's what's Gary gonna say? I don't like giraffes. What the hell is this? Like, what do you think's going to happen? Do you know what the laws are? Like, a lot has actually been clarified, and you're operating off of like old stuff. Stop LARPing as a Fortune 500 tech company. You're not one, buddy. And you certainly aren't running as well as one. What are you doing? Where are you? What company is this? This is Web3. This is where random garbage happens. This is where like money is freed, right? The entire point of cryptocurrency is that money is unshackled from all the middlemen and all the fucked up financial institutions that are constantly collapsing all around us. You are in a chaotic, bleeding edge technology space. You talk about how great your technology is, how good it is for all these things, but you don't understand where you are. How's that gonna match up? Right? People are like, oh, the best tech always wins. No, it does not. Enterprises are not focused on getting the best tech, by the way. That's why you see subway lines running off of Windows XP still. They use what works. It costs so much money to get their entire system, even if it runs poor or slow. They don't really care about that as long as the customers are happy. It costs so much money, so much education, so much changing of personnel, getting employees up to speed to change to a new system. Do you think they want to change to bleeding edge, fast, super high transaction speed stuff? No, that's why we have to pay them. That's why enterprises make Hedera no money. You know where the money comes from? Retail. The amount of people that don't understand that the bags of the HBAR that, I mean, people at Hedera, like a lot of them don't understand that the HBAR they get to sell every month and they love it is on the backs of retail. We paid for that. We're paying for that. You know, this isn't like, oh, my taxes go to, I'm the president's boss. Like we're the lifeblood, bro. We're the entire reason this thing can even keep chugging along. And you need to figure out where you are, and you need to stop pretending that you're Google. Google may be on the council, but you're not Google. Google you may be paying them to put their logo up. You're not Google. Okay. And to touch on what Brady was saying earlier, I don't know if they understand. They don't understand where they are. They don't understand what Web3 is. And a lot of them don't care.
Okay. So where do we go from here? So the thing is I think that is the emotion I think that a lot of people are having. And I think it's healthy because, again, if we take a step back, I think that there's quite a few networks that experience this situation of like, wait, who are we? You know, like a bit of an identity crisis in a way. I think it's a healthy thing. I think it's one of those inflection points that is these kinds of make or break moments that happen. And what Hedera is dealing with is kind of like an identity crisis. To me, when I saw that kind of committee instated by, excuse me, Jesus Murphy, I'm getting too worked up here. When
Let's
I saw
all
that
burp.
on three, when I saw the committee from the governing council be instated to find the new president, and then Charles came on board and stuff, to me, that was initially kind of like a sign of like, okay, there's going to be some shakeup in leadership in some kind of way. We're seeing more shakeups in leadership at Swirlds, at Hedera, all these different types of things. And when we talk about leadership, I think what very often a lot of the conversation has to come back to the governing council. We talk about potentially problems that happen at, different organizations in the ecosystem or all these different types of things. But I do think that a lot of this comes back to the governing council. And our point here is, does the governing council have the ability to navigate this kind of stuff, to navigate this type of identity crisis? And the plus side to me is what says to me that they do, that they're at least a little self-aware, is going, we need to bring in someone at the top who knows, right? And to me, that is a self-awareness that was really positive for me, because I'm like, okay, here's this organization that doesn't really know what's going on. And when I saw that search, it was like, they're saying like, we don't know what's going on. And I think that's a really kind of a healthy thing. I think that, to the governing council's credit, I think that they're more self-aware than we give them credit for. And I hope that that's what Charles is doing, is leveraging that and saying like, okay, guys, maybe we don't quite know what's going on, but I do. And there are people that do, that we can bring in. And so I think that that's kind of what makes me feel like it's this kind of end of an era for Hedera, is we've got the community kind of going, like, what's going on? Who are we? Like, what's happening? And maybe feeling like they got the short end of the stick or whatever, which is, I think, in some ways a fact. And that's really what drives change and what brings forth a new era. But I do think that you got to wrap this one up. You got to end this era. And I think we're going to start to see some stuff based off of, conversations I've had, even Rob Allen on the HBAR Bull show, stuff he said. It's a very stark change in how they describe the governing council and the organization. And I think it brings some relief to some people. I do think it like freaks a lot of people out as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, things will get better. And I trust Charles, behind Charles all the way. But he is one person, right? And he's coming into this thing that's been built. A lot of things with the governing council, with the HBAR Foundation, with the Hashgraph Association, with everything, with Swirlds, with Hedera, a lot of things were not set up correctly. And part of that is excusable. Part of that is they didn't know, right? We have to give people a little bit of grace when it comes to, we are in La La Land. We are in bleeding edge technology, weird world. We are in the evolution of money, right? So a lot of stuff you don't know. but you have to be open and receptive to change, and you have to have people you can listen to. Thank the Lord above, they have Charles to be like, no, that's stupid. No, that's not what we should do. We need people to buy HBAR. What? We have to care about the price of HBAR? Yeah. Yes. If you're going to sell that much of it, yeah, you should care about the price of HBAR. Yeah. I thought it was just free money. No. No, apparently not, man. It's not free money. Somebody had to pick up the bill. I know you're all elites, right? And you're not used to that, right? It just comes out of the magic account that daddy has. But believe it or not, somebody has to pick up that bill. So thank God we have Charles. We need more. And unfortunately, this whole thing is going to be a systemic issue that needs to be slowly changed over time, because a lot of things, you know, sorry, Mance, sorry, whoever was the brainchild. I know you made stuff up. I know you were flying by the seat of your pants, because that's what humans do, right? That's what humans do when they don't have information. They don't know what to do, and they're a completely new field. The amount of stuff that I've tried that's failed because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I do that every week. I get it, but it's been enough time that if the community has to come up and be like, stop it, you need to stop. You need to stop and listen. Okay?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have to listen to a Grelf.
Right. Right. Sorry, Brady. I know, Brady, you shared something on this. I'm going to bring it up on screen, but I know you kind of wanted to speak to something, so I wanted to throw it to you.
Yeah, no doubt. And I agree in the sense that, you know, you can't keep trying the same thing over and over again, expecting new results. If something's not working and clearly certain things aren't, the change has to take place and you have to move fast. The market is incredibly fast. And, you know, if there is no sense of urgency and ability to execute quickly, then you're ultimately going to fall behind. And truly, it needs to operate more like a startup than like a large, slow-moving enterprise in order for us to be successful. And yeah, I think, you know, related to maybe the sentiment of this call and the sentiment that we're seeing across the entire ecosystem, there's this posting by Vitalik that really resonates with me in the sense that, you know, we are ultimately a decentralized network. Decentralization is a core tenet of the Hedera network and something that I do think that people believe in. And, you know, he's saying here, and I'm really proud that Ethereum does not have a culture of trying to prevent people from speaking their minds, even when they have negative feelings towards major things in the protocol or ecosystem. Some wave the idea of open discourse as a flag, and some take it seriously. And I think, you know, this call today is probably a good example of that. And there's many, many examples of that have been taking place, you know, over the last 6 months and more, where people should be able to freely speak their minds. And that sort of allows everyone to come to the best consensus that we can in terms of direction. So I'm happy that folks are freely able to do that.
Yeah, I share that. We got a question too. Someone says, Paul, always a listener of the show. Shout out, Paul. He says, what major enterprise use cases live on Solana or Ethereum? I understand the importance of retail, but with tribalism in Web3, siphoning off retail from networks is tough. What is the catalyst for this? So I guess this is kind of a question of like, well, what are other networks seeing success in enterprise, and how do we siphon off that into Hedera?
Right. And I think the big thing is, again, going back to the maturity of the market, enterprise just isn't ready yet for full-fledged use cases. And retail adoption and innovation is what's going to drive maturity of these technologies to allow enterprises long-term to be able to collapse into them. We are seeing a lot of proofs of concept that are taking place, not just on Hedera, but across other ecosystems as well. But those proofs of concept aren't driving, you know, sustainable revenues for the network, sustainable amounts of transaction. It's a lot of playing with the technology in an unmature state. And a lot of times a marketing play too for some of these large organizations that are trying to position themselves as being forward thinking, et cetera. A big one was Polygon CDK recently. Polygon has Fox Corp now. launching a layer 2 network using CDK for, it looks like, sort of verification of news, which was interesting. And so, other organizations are definitely looking to these other chains as a tool that they can adopt and utilize. And again, we've heard directly from enterprises that they sometimes don't choose Hedera because there is not a strong retail user base. And we saw that with large organizations that were trying to do, for example, like NFT launches for their products during that era of NFTs, talking to Mercedes and some other organizations. They say, well, why Hedera? And you can go through the tech list all day long. And obviously, yeah, the tech is great. There are so many benefits to building on Hedera. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to what's our total addressable market for what it is that we're trying to launch. We're trying to resonate with these forward-thinking Web3 people. And if that group doesn't exist on the network that they're launching on, then they're not getting the exposure that they want. It's not worth the investment. It's not worth the value. And so retail is important, to summarize it up, is we're seeing that it's important for the ecosystems that we're playing in. It's important for enterprises. It's important for the long-term viability. And I do think that the narrative is shifting, and I really hope that we see like majorly impactful change from the top down across the board around this. And so I'm very hopeful.
We definitely need a reset. I want to expand on
Hold
something
on,
you said.
Jake. One second. Your mic's coming. It's crackling. Hold on.
It's crackling.
Sounds like you're calling in from like the Apollo mission.
Oh no. Well, Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a voice modulator.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean,
give me a sec.
Okay.
Or it sounds like when you had your cell phone, like back in the day, next to your speakers, and the speakers crackled before a phone call came through. It like predicted a text message or a phone call.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like an aux cord or something. Say something again.
Are we okay?
We're good. We're good now.
I know what it was. It's a latency issue. It
is what it is.
To expand on something you said, which is, here's a little secret for everybody. If you have a meeting with a big company, let's say it's Apple. Everybody wants to talk to Apple. You have a meeting with them, and they say, yeah, we can do something with Hedera. Maybe in 10 years, we'll do something with Hedera. You publish that article that day. You say Hedera is working with Apple. Oh, it's in 10 years? Oh, there's no contract signed? Oh, there's like actually no indication that they'll follow up on that? But we had the meeting, baby. That's the case with everything. That's the case with every single announcement, with everyone. Not just Hedera, everybody. Because that's what you do, right? We're not going to get in. We're not lying. We're not going to get in trouble for lying completely. Is there any kind of technicality we can say that there's a partnership? It's why you say people who are using Amazon Cloud are like, we're partnering with Amazon. No, they said we could use them. That's a partnership. Like everybody does that. That's a little secret. So they may say like, we're working with all these big companies. Maybe they haven't talked to them in 6 months. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We had that meeting. That is all across the board. That's something you have to understand. Something else that you touched on. We're the perfect, as far as like what's the catalyst for us being good for retail, we're the perfect network for retail. We're the best network for retail. All the stuff that retail's actually doing, all the things, this is why Solana is successful. I mean, you can say they're stupid and their network farts and nobody likes it and they smell bad. The reason they're successful is because they're investing in what people are doing right now. They're not investing in what's 10 years into the future. What a great business model. Oh, let's have a 100-year company. We don't have to worry about making profit for 99 years. What a great idea. What a great thing to say.
Dumb. All right. So you want to invest, you want to do what people are doing right now. If you have a business, if you want to make money, right? You invest in what people are actually doing. You're not trying to predict what people are going to want to be doing in 5 years. You want to invest in what they're doing right now. Hedera is fast, efficient, cheap, has fair ordering, right? It works good. It works better. What does it work better for? Some imaginary thing that might happen at some point, or hey, maybe it could work better for what people are doing right now. That's how we steal, right? That's how we steal market share. That's how we steal mind share. That's how we steal people, users, attention from other networks, is by investing in what people are doing right now. What people are using the cryptocurrency networks right now, what they're using for the technology right now. And we have a fantastic network for it, really good. But we need to, I don't know, let people know that it exists. We do no marketing. We're recycling the 3 years old Hasker commercial with stock footage of people holding up colored beakers because that's what science is. And it's just a montage of stock footage that they bought and a voiceover. They couldn't pay a professional guy. They had to pay the marketing guy they hired who doesn't even work at Hedera anymore. That's what we're going to show with millions of eyes on Hedera for Karate Combat. Oh, Karate Combat sponsored by Hedera. We're not going to have the word Hedera on the ring anywhere. It's just an H, guys. What am I going to Google? H? Weird looking H? H with an extra line? It's the same thing with Davos. They had the backdrop with just the stupid H symbol. What does that mean? Nothing. To 99.999% of the population, it means nothing. There's basic marketing stuff. I don't want to hear shit about legislation, regulation, whatever. There's basic marketing stuff. Putting Hedera's name on things that is already there. You're already doing some kind of marketing, but you're doing it poorly. Going forward from that, you need to set up a separate foundation that's not in the US, right? Set up a specific, not a grant-giving foundation, a foundation, this is what other cryptocurrency networks do, that specifically handles marketing. It's decentralized from Hedera, but its job is essentially to be funded and do marketing for Hedera, where they don't have to worry about Gary showing up and shining them in the eyes with the reflection off his big old bald head and blinding them. So you don't have to worry about that. People don't know about Hedera. They don't know that it's good. And more importantly, saying, ooh, tech is good, is nebulous, it's ambiguous, it attracts no one, right? It attracts the 5 people that watched an 8-hour-long YouTube deep dive and found themselves here. Us weirdos, we're stuck in the insane asylum, but we need more crazy friends to come over, and the tech thing's not bringing them. It shouldn't be just the responsibility of the community to do this anyway, right? But we need to talk about experiences. We need to talk about the cool stuff that's happening. We need to show people this is a fun place to be. You've got me. You've got Brandon. You've got Brady. That's something, right? You got 3 freaks. Let's set the freak show up, baby. Let's get some people in the tent. Sell some tickets.
Let's go, dude. I'm pumped. And just on the note on the logo, this was something that people were sharing in the ecosystem. It was Elon trying, I guess, beer for the first time, and the beer brand is the Hawkstone one with the Hedera logo. So
Hawkstone sponsored Karate Combat.
Yes, and it appears, unfortunately, the first interaction Elon's having with this logo is with a beer that I don't think he likes. So I guess, I don't know, lawsuit incoming, but that's exactly the point. Jake, it's when it comes to the marketing stuff, that's the other thing that things come down to, right? It's marketing. The marketing for Hedera is not, strong.
Well, and I can comment on that. I think is, the way that being a marketer for the last 10, 12 years now, marketing does an amazing job of amplifying the narratives that take place internally and the activities that are taking place at any organization. And marketing can most of the time only be as good as the vision of the organization that the marketing team is operating for and the internal activities that are taking place as part of that, the products that are being built, the things that are being done strategically that tie up into that vision. It comes down to marketing, where they then craft a narrative where when there is something new, let's build that narrative about how it ties back up to the overarching vision of the org, how it complements the strategy that we've created. And I think a big problem, and I can say I experienced this working there, is the confusion by the community around the narrative of what's being stood for is an internal confusion as well. And I think everybody has that same sort of lack of concrete understanding. And so I think that needs to be in place first, and there needs to be a stake in the ground around that. And then the marketing related activities can follow, because they have something that guides them around the vision that is set by the network, by the organization. And that's not just a Hedera thing. That's for any organization that exists, that has a marketing department. They can only be as good as what's happening internally, and they sort of really act as amplifiers of that. So I'll get off my soapbox. That's my piece with regards to marketing.
Yeah, I think that's great points. And someone left a comment here too that I pulled up, which is like, the main detriment to retail adoption is the perception of centralization. Crypto retail is all virtue investing, and Hedera is viewed as not virtuous. And I think that kind of hits the point here, is like, we're talking about not just building infrastructure for things people are doing right now and not thinking too far in the future, but also like doing things that place Hedera as part of the conversation right now versus stepping too carefully. Because how I view it is, when the dust settles and this industry is, fully mature, and let's say Hedera makes it to the top 10 and everything's going gravy, it's like everybody's going to have these crazy battle scars of getting there that will be a source of pride for these communities and these companies and networks. And like, do we want Hedera to just be this kind of like shiny, unscathed thing, just still removed from that shared experience? It's like, the reality is that for networks and business in general, is like getting fined, getting in trouble, breaking the rules. It's marketing expense. Like, that's really, like, when we talk about marketing, we're talking about communication. And sometimes communicating effectively to a particular group means doing something that maybe your target audience isn't like a huge fan of. And that sometimes it's okay. Like, good branding and good awareness can operate independently. Like, you can have great awareness that isn't great branding, but it generates awareness. And my example of, what if Hedera changed their profile picture to a giraffe? It's like, is that great branding? Probably not. But does it get awareness? Sure, because people go like, uh-oh, something's wrong at Hedera.
Why is this happening?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the energy that you got to tap into, because then you can do some great branding stuff with like ad spots and build this tension, ride a bit of tension. But if you're constantly playing it so safe, and your goal is to not get too much of a reaction, you're just not going to get that awareness. Like, if you want awareness, you're going to have people freaking out,
Here's the thing. Okay. We say like, oh, they're playing it safe. I don't think they're playing it safe. I think they're playing it lazy. They're not hungry.
And so sorry guys to interrupt. I got to jump real quick.
No worries, Brady.
Thanks so much. I just have a meeting right now, but thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Brady's a great guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they're hungry, man. I don't think they want to eat anyone else's lunch. I think they're like, no, my mom packed this for me. I'm fine. It's got all my favorite food groups. I'm good. Maybe it's because they're playing with other people's lunch money. I don't know, but they're not hungry, man. I talked to Charles. He's hungry, right?
Yeah.
He sees there's potential. He's like, wow, we're top 30 and we have no marketing at all.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I'll get it in the bag. This is going to be easy. And then he comes in and he's probably like, oh, the hell's going on?
Right.
Talking about communication, this is something me and you talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And something that is not, we're on the bleeding edge of tech. Web3 is different. What I talk about all the time. Something that's not tied to technology is the culture around communication in Web3. And Hedera is not tapping into that. You've talked about this. I've talked about this. You can go, I want to talk to the head of a project building on this network, any network, not Hedera, Web3. You go into their Discord, go into their Telegram. You can just talk to that guy. That is not a thing anywhere else. You can't even do that with bands most of the time, right? There's barriers. People are terrified. And Hedera in their PR and their communication, not just Hedera, all of them, all the conglomerate that's super decentralized, but I'm sure if you looked at their Google Calendar, you'd find it wasn't. Those people aren't playing the culture of Web3, the culture of today, right? Their communication is so important because they'll let you get away with so much. We want to help you, right? We are investors in you. We believe in you already. You've got us already. Talk to us, right? You want us to excuse. You want us to understand. You have a direct line, baby. You don't need to put out a crafted PR statement that you probably paid way too much to hire a firm to help you craft, because it comes off as tone deaf. It comes off as you've got gloves and then an oven mitt and then something else on top and it's wrapped in tinfoil. You're not touching us, bro.
Yeah.
We can't feel you. We don't know what the hell's going on. And if you don't have that close communication, right? Number one, you can't control a narrative with your community. That's why the community's fucking spinning out, right?
Yeah.
Right now. And to say that that's not happening, obviously you've got your head in a hole. The community's spinning out right now because we don't know where you are. We don't know who you are. We can't feel you. We can't react to you. We can't even talk to you. All these meetings and stuff, you throw the HBAR bull Brandon out there as a buffer. Like, let's talk to you, man. Let's not talk to a contractor. Where are you guys? Talk to us. Like, we want to forgive and forget, and we want to understand, but you have to meet us there. Grelf said this, that guy, but it's very clear that you're afraid. And you're never, if you are in a relationship, this ties into romantic, friendship, otherwise. If you're in a relationship and one of the main emotions you're feeling is fear, it's never going to work, because you can never get to a place of comfort and you can never get to a place of security if fear is a large part of your relationship. Then it becomes a hostage situation, right? Then it becomes Stockholm syndrome. That's when fear has evolved the relationship. And there's a lot of fear here. Are we the villain? Is the community the villain? This should not be a discussion. We're in this together. But I know, and we all know, that we are seen as this separate little pocket. And even some people in the community are like, it's just a bunch of people complaining on Twitter.
Right.
It's not real. What's real is that the random guys on Twitter hold millions of dollars that they bought in HBAR.
Yeah.
That's what's real, bro.
Yeah.
They complain on Twitter, but there's a massive amount of money that several people in the community hold, and they're angry, right? And it's mostly because we can't connect with you. Please connect with us.
Yeah. And also too, it's like there is multiple layers. Like if you do want to illustrate it as layers of like, okay, we got crazy retail people down here, and then you've got other people with more money, like, oh, those retail people don't matter. It's like the people way up that, open a, $750,000 long on HBAR at lunch or something. It's like the truly like big HBAR whales that have been here, the OGs that were hype on it being patented and stuff. It's like the reason those people are in the position they're in is because they can change, they can see those narratives. And those are the people above all of this that are like, what are they doing? They got to change they got to pivot. They got to go retail. It's like, there's realities. And then I do feel that like there's a lot of HBARbarians that just kind of want to cling to the past. I mean, I'll be the first one to say like, it was fun. Like scrapping around on GoMint and minting NFTs in a Google form, and who's the next governing council member, and we got 100 TPS, and like all like that stuff is so fun, and it was so special, and it was so unique. And we had a great run up to 40 cents. Like it was just with hardly anything. And that does speak to the technology. That does speak to the quality of the community. But what you're getting at is like, to really drill down on it, it's like Hedera is drastically underutilizing the community. Like it's not, for me, it's not so much a conversation of like, we got to get together, we got to do these things. It's like, someone's got to say like, Hedera, like use these people. like we're also just saying like, use me. There's so much energy in this community. And I think it like goes even deeper than that of like, they maybe don't realize it. And I think it's because of like the concept of, you know, we talk about, you know, Hedera thinks they're an enterprise when they're not, they're a startup. And like one of the core tenets of startups is dog fooding. It's the act of using your own products to grow your business. Like a great example is like, you look at startup companies like Squarespace or Stripe or Airbnb or all these different types of things. It's like those companies grew through using their products, right? Product-led growth. And I think that if you want to go way, 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 way deep down, where I think the problem lies really deep down is in any company, if the leadership doesn't use the products their company builds, you got problems, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. If the people making the decisions, if the people governing the network, if the people doing these types of things like haven't purchased NFTs with their Kabila wallet or Hashpack or Blade wallet or whatever it is, that they haven't gone on these different dexes, if they haven't tried these different things, if they haven't had these experiences, if they haven't, you know, even bought some HBAR, like you've got a real problem. Like for me, that's really what it all drills down to, is if you're the leader of a company and you don't use the products your company makes, you will fail. That's just the reality of it. There is not a successful startup that had leadership that didn't use their own products. And very commonly, the mentality of a startup is, we're just going to build stuff we want. And I think at the beginning, that was the healthy aspect of Hedera. It was a bunch of enterprises together and they're like, hey, we're going to build stuff we want. And they did. And I think that's going to work really well for enterprise, but it takes time. What do we do in the meantime? And the leadership, I just don't think uses retail stuff. They're not maybe crypto natives. A lot of the governing council representatives, you know, are, you know, it's someone from the CTO's office, the crypto guy or whatever. And it's like, that's how this stuff starts out. But, you know, it can't just be checking a box. It's like you're building something. And that's, I think, the most unfortunate part of it is like, not only are we talking about all these different potential problems, it's like, maybe they don't realize like how cool the network actually is. Like that's the other side to it, is like, maybe they feel like way far behind than they actually are. Like, do you think that could be something where they maybe don't realize how far along things have come on the network with very little? And it could be a wake up call if they just, you know, logged on and bought some HBAR and tried some stuff.
I think that there's, and of course I'm not speaking about everyone. I don't know everyone in these organizations. Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't know a lot of things. There's a lot of people that are, you know, they're very good with programming. They're technologists, right? And they're not concerned with all this other stuff. But you do have to try and eat some of your own dog food. I think if there's the fear element, there's also the elitism element, which unfortunately is an aspect. I think that we've all seen it. We've all heard it, right? I'm
guilty of it. Like, you have to be able to like recognize, like, I was, and in some ways still am a person where my brain is like, oh, Hedera is better. You know, Hedera is this, Hedera is better. Like, we also have to not pretend that like we weren't all there at some point. I'm just as guilty of that, of having that elitism of being an HBARbarian. It's like, I was very elitist, and it's through using the network, learning about new primitives, diving into stuff, learning about other networks, you kind of just go, oh, wow, this is so much bigger than Hedera. Hedera truly has a place in something massive. And Hedera is not special enough to get a shortcut to the top 5. It's like, we will just have to go through the same trials and tribulations and pains and fines and bruises.
Yeah, you need to work.
Yeah, that every other network
you need
has.
to work.
Yeah.
You need to put in effort. The thing that I see, it's lazy thinking, right? Anytime, this isn't just crypto, this is anything in your life. If you say to yourself, and please don't ever do this, we all do it sometimes, say, I've got it all figured out. I understand this. You can't even fully understand wood.
Right.
There's a million things with just wood, with just the literally basic building block of construction. You're never going to understand wood 100%. You're never going to understand all the different things that can happen with some wood. And that's just wood. That's not talking about bleeding edge technology, right? That we have on Hedera. Saying, I know Hedera is going to be successful. I'm good. Made my investment. Now I just sit and wait. It's just going to be like Apple stock. No, nothing is ever going to be exactly the same as another thing. That's not how life works. It's never a sure thing. And more importantly, like you just don't want to think anymore. Let's be honest. You just want to be done. You don't want to, I know we all hate like that period when we first get into crypto and we're checking the price every second like it matters. We want to get away from that. It's stressful. It's stressful to constantly be tuned into something. That it's mental energy. I know you want to just be like, I bought the thing, I'm done, right? But unfortunately, and you know, for the greater good, you have a lot more power over this thing than you previously imagined, right? That ties in the communication thing. It's a two-way street. Like they have a lot of access to us. We have a lot of access to them. We have a lot of impact. If they raise us up, we can raise them up. Like you're saying, use us. We have one of the most unique communities I've ever been a part of. I've gone to a lot of different other smaller communities, never found anything as close as the level of talent. On Hedera. I mean, your show is a great example. It's a fantastic example. You're doing this for free.
Well, actually, just to clarify, I mean, I've got like thousands of dollars in donations from listeners to the show, to a wallet, purchase the equipment, all that kind of stuff. So
so retail's funding this too.
Yeah, it turns out the retail's behind everything.
It turns out there's only one person that can pay the bills around here. Interesting.
It's true.
Interesting. I wonder what it would be like if some of the money, right, that Hedera, HBAR Foundation, all these people's throwing out was, I don't know, invested into some of the people in the community that are adding to it and marketing for you and creating content for you. Golly, wouldn't that be something? Who could imagine? It's already this good with completely on the back of donations from a beaten and abused community that's already having to lift the heaviest of bags that other people are just throwing into the wind. And it makes a fantastic show like this. Could you only imagine if they put a little of that money back into the system of the people that are creating that value? Wow, wouldn't that be smart?
Yeah. And I think that actually as well is the tough part, is like, I've been very conscious with this show to not saying there like has or hasn't been any offers like that, but I like to shit talk Hedera and the foundation and Swirlds and all that kind of stuff. It's healthy. And it's like, it also speaks to like the respect I have for a lot of those people. I'm a big believer that like, if nobody's freaking out at you, you're not doing anything of consequence. But yeah, I don't think a show like mine would be successful if it had support from the network. Cause at that point it's like, it's really hard to stay objective. I don't want the voice in the back of my mind, like, if you say the wrong thing, you might lose it or whatever. And it's like, also at the same point, it's like, like, I don't get paid to do the show. People donate and I can buy equipment like this stuff and everything like that. And right now I've kind of just stopped plugging the wallet because there's no more equipment or stuff the show needs right now. And I think that's also kind of the attitude we have to bring to things, is like, it's okay to like have enough as well. Like, it's okay to like, for this show, it's like, what is it actually about? And the show is actually about just being an enthusiast about Hashgraph. Like, Hedera is the first network to be a Hashgraph network. Like, there will be other Hashgraph based networks. I'm excited about the Hashgraph technology. Like, I'm in it for the tech. It's like, it's not called Hedera enthusiasts. I don't know how many Hedera enthusiasts there are now, but I think that there's so many Hashgraph enthusiasts. It is like, at the core for me, I think one of the things that Hedera really got right is really illustrating this as like the 3rd generation DLT. It's like, this is the new technology for DLTs, Hashgraph. And we're still on kind of step 2. How do we get that to people? And we're figuring that out right now. So that's what I'm an enthusiast in. And yeah, I think that for me, it's like, people say to me all the time, like, oh, they should be investing in your show and all this and that. And it's like, no, it is kind of cool that that it works without it. And that's the whole dream for me, is like really trying to explain to people that, as you said, just buy HBAR and hold. It's like, no, how this works actually is the people who use the network come to control it. That's how this space works. And we see that play out all the time, for better or for worse. But you can have a governing council, you can have bylaws, you can have all this type of stuff. But the reality is, if you got something really great, the people who use it are going to control it eventually. Right now, it's retail using this stuff. And the amount of control that retail has over Hedera now is immense. I don't think people in the community understand the power that this retail community has. I don't think Hedera understands the power that it has, but we're watching that kind of play out in real time. And I know that, like, but you're not going to get retail on the governing council. Retail can't, push changes to the network or whatever. It's like, stuff changes, right? And the network will be controlled by those putting transactions to the mainnet, to those using it, to those driving revenue. Like, it might happen slowly, but that will happen. And there's going to be enterprises starting to do that, and maintaining that control of the network. I do think that that's kind of the one law that we just can't get around. The one human aspect to all of this is, whether you like it or not, to both retail and the governing council, is like, the people who use this network will come to control it. There's just no way around that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's what you want.
Exactly.
That's what you want to happen. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
We don't want to be Apple. Maybe you think you want to be Apple because you want to be a billionaire because you bought 10,000 HBAR. We don't want to be Apple, right? We want to be Hedera. We want to be unique. We want to be what we're supposed to be, right? We want to be decentralized. We want the network to be given over to the people. That's what makes it different. We're not a Fortune 500 tech company. I'm glad you can do this show without, monetary support, and that you have this amount of passion that you want to keep doing it anyway. Like it's
and I've got a full-time job in the ecosystem at Hgraph. Like, I'm doing okay. There is room here to make things happen.
But there's other ways that they could support you, like not financially. There's other ways they could support you, because it's a value add, right? Here's the thing with content creation. You can be like, no, enterprise stuff just matters, even if you think that you're getting money from enterprise, which it's the other way around. Ignoring that, assuming you don't know that. If you want people to come here, if you want people to learn about this place, there has to be energy. Yeah. When people currently come by and see what's going on in Hedera, and I've heard this from people, they're saying, what the hell's going on over there? What's wrong? I'm confused. What's wrong? Because all I see are angry people. Yeah. That's the wrong kind of energy. And it ties back in the communication thing. Like narratives will get away from you. They'll run away from you if you don't take the responsibility to stay in clear and constant communication with your community. The 3 C's that I just made up right now. You have the ability to change that. And we want you to take that responsibility because we want things to be better. We have so much energy, so much pent up aggression. A lot of times aggression is just energy that is not used in an efficient way, right? It's bottled up. So just by the fact that we're freaking out, that we're full to the brim of energy that could be used in productive ways, if only you helped us direct it, right? And part of that is keeping your ears open and keeping your hands deep into that soup, feel around in there. Like grab hold of a potato or two. You know what I'm saying? Everybody does that when they make soup without exception. We all stick our hands into the hot pot and try to grab a good old thick potato or two. It's as simple as that.
There is no better metaphor. And I think that for me, maybe what we can do kind of winding down this conversation is I think that maybe speak to something that I think is swirling around in people's minds of like, did I invest in the wrong network? Should I sell my HBAR? Are the wheels falling off? What is going on? What would you say to those people that I think over the last few weeks that maybe have become like really disenfranchised about this stuff, maybe fallen out of love in a way with Hedera, maybe feel a little lost. Maybe they're like, I don't even know where I fit into this thing anymore. I've been holding HBAR and it's just going down. What is going on? Like my parents are asking how their crypto portfolio is doing. And like, what would you say to those people that are just kind of like in the all hope is lost mindset?
If all this stuff happening is making you think I should sell now, you're an idiot. That's what I would say, because this is the part where people know all the garbage that's been happening. This is the part where people are having conversations on how to fix things. This is the productive part, right? You should have sold when nobody was talking about this, but all this bad stuff was happening behind the scenes and nobody knew about it. This is not the time to sell, right? Not at all. Because they may pretend like they're not listening. They may pretend like they're not paying attention, but they are. They have to be. And it's not just me. Other people are having these conversations too. It's not just me, this random weird guy who LARPs as a bald man with a speech impediment in his spare time saying these things. The words that are coming out of my mouth are coming from you guys. It's this zeitgeist, right? I'm not a genius. It's just we're all feeling it. We can all feel it. Unless they're completely tuned out, the people in Hedera, Swirl, all the different organizations, whatever, they can feel it too.
Yeah.
This is not the time to sell. This is the time to get your hands in that soup because you can enact change. We're enacting change right now just by having this conversation. You can do it. Just get plugged in, right? Get active, get engaged. Use that energy in a productive way. And things are going to get better. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of things like systemically that were set up incorrectly. But people will try to tell you this. They'll try to say there's nothing that can be done. Nope, we can't do that because of this. That's not a thing, right? That's not a thing. There's no company bylaws that can not be changed. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it takes a lot of people. Maybe it takes a big initiative. Maybe it takes everybody getting scared enough by the community freaking out to get on the same page. I don't know. But things can change. And more importantly, they are going to change. They are going to change. Things are going to get better. Don't sell. Relax a little bit. If you are planning to hold your HBAR and do nothing, go ahead and sell. I don't really care about you because you're not important. And you've made it clear that your opinion doesn't matter because you're going to hold or not hold, whatever. Anyway, you're not impacting the network at all. For the people who care, don't sell. Stick it in. Dig in. and we're gonna show this world some crazy shit.
Grab that potato. I think that's the best way to think about it. And for me, I guess my final thought on this is like, there, like for people familiar with like the VC world and kind of like the A16Z and the Y Combinator stuff. The founder of Y Combinator, Paul Graham, he wrote an essay and he had a great quote in it where he said, this industry works like a train, right? The technology train, and it leaves the station at regular intervals. That's just the way it's always worked. And what he says is that the situation normally functions like stuff just gets really bad, especially when there's recessions or inflation or whatever it might be, maybe macro factors, whatever it is. Before the train leaves, people kind of start getting off the train because they're scared and they start cowering in a corner. And the opportunity therein lies when the train leaves. Like, you might end up with a car all to yourself if you stay on the train. That's the risk. If we talk about risk and reward, this is the risk part. This is the tough part. This is the, people go by the fear, all this kind of stuff. Like, this is the moment now. And it's really just up to your risk tolerance. It's like, you've got a crypto network that's pummeled by macro factors, just as every other network, and is going through an identity crisis as other networks have done before. Now's your time to place your bets. Like, this is the time now. And I know where I'm placing my bets. And I think that HBAR is great because it's the, protocol token to make things happen on the network. But there are so many other cool things that you can buy, that make money to buy more HBAR. Like, there are, like we talked about Brady earlier on the show with borrowing and lending. It's like, what happens if you take borrowing and lending away from the US economy? It dies. You have to have these things. And so I think that what I would say to people that are just like so disillusioned and just like, I got to give up on this thing, it's going nowhere. What I would say is, what you're experiencing is a vacuum, right? There's a vacuum right now. And if you're a founder, if you're someone with ideas, there's a lot of benefit to starting to build something in a bad economy or a bad market. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I mean, Lehman himself talks about this. He talks about the .com crash and all those things that happen. It's baked into the DNA of this network. There's also a component to me of like, we kind of just have to get back to some of those original things. Cause some of those do, like, if like we can poo-poo Hedera and the governing council and stuff all day, but there are some core values here that we can rely upon. The concept of like shared worlds, the concept of, multi-planetary nodes, all these different types of things. It's like the new president of Hedera, Charles, is talking about. Think bigger. Like, when you feel the smallest, that's really the time to think as big as possible. And so that's what I'd say to people right now is, if that feeling you're feeling, that's the anxiety of like freedom. That's the anxiety of like possibility. That's the unknown. That's what it feels like when an era ends for something. There's something new that's going to happen that maybe is unfamiliar and strange, but that's where the opportunity lies. Like, if you can stick it out, those are the people that get rewarded and get called lucky. And every network has had this moment. Every single network has had this moment. And the networks that have managed to retain that. And I guess this is where the ball lies in Hedera's court is, what are you going to do to retain this talent, this community, this energy? What are you going to do to keep this engine going? And from what I see, flipping to the positive side, is I see a governing council over the last year that's gone, I don't know if we have the best plan. I think we got to switch some stuff up. And I think a year is a very fair time period for a strategy to be outlined for a new direction. Like, that's totally fair. So I think that a lot of people are putting a lot of their hopes in Charles. I think that he can take the pressure. Although it was unfortunate to see, I don't know if you noticed this, but the BlackRock stuff, when he was like, a little bit of FUD, oh, it's nothing. I used to get death threats at the Federal Reserve. And then he tweets out a couple of weeks ago, like, guys, I'm getting death threats. I was like,
getting them again.
Yeah, I was like, oh, geez. But yeah, I think that on the community side, we really gotta, maybe we are the soup. We are the soup. We're waiting for someone to reach out and grab our potato.
Yeah, grab my potatoes.
Yeah.
Just get a handful. I may sound negative, but mostly it's because I actually love this network and the people on it like a lot. Like a lot. But also and this is true, I've never been more bullish on Hedera than these past 3 weeks.
Yep.
And that's a fact. I've never been more bullish on Hedera than these past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for that.
Yeah. And I'm the same too. And I think that both, it's like you and I both have lots of conversations with different people. And also just what I'll actually do real quick. This is a great way to kind of wind down this conversation, but I think that people might see us up here and like, God, these guys are going absolutely ballistic and I have no idea what they're doing.
I can't help it.
But there was this great clip from the HBAR Bulls show of Rob Allen, who is on the governing council, and he touches on this stuff. And I think that this is an important clip. So let's watch this real quick. And I think this is a great way to kind of hammer this home. And again, this is somebody on the governing council.
I think that the next 6 months will have a bit of a reset across Hedera. I think we're at that point now where there is a lot of will and intent to ensure that we are fit. So, whatever that looks like, I believe that there is a real desire to ensure that the organizations that are partners within the Hedera ecosystem are fit for purpose for that. And that means kind of the governance and the ecosystem development and the engineering, all kind of making sure that it's super lean and super ready to really drive into this kind of next 12 or 18 months, which are likely to be an exciting ride. So we'll see that. I really, really hope that the community is engaged fully, that we're all pulling together, that we have the right principles, the right Web3 principles embedded in all that we do. I think that's essential, critical for the health of the Hedera ecosystem, which means listening to the community. It means building the developer community. It means transparency. And all the things that we kind of been hearing about recently, but have been hearing about for many, many years. So, hearing and listening are different things, and we absolutely need to listen to all those voices. I think we've only got those 6 months really to get that right. Probably a deeper answer than the questioner intended, or maybe not. But that my personal view is that we're at that point where we have to kind of inflect into what Mance actually called Hedera 2.0 when we were in New York. This is the new phase of Hedera. There are many things happening. There's quite a lot of friction because of it. And it's the time to now make sure that this ecosystem is fit to be to continue to be the best in class in all that we do.
Where are the meeting minutes? So anyways, like the meeting minutes are late or whatever, but I mean, like if the conversations on the show today and then seeing that clip of Rob Allen, like, doesn't show people that like, this is just literally a fact that these are things that have to happen. It's like, you got to strap in. It does. Like Rob Allen literally references Mance in New York saying Hedera 2.0. Like that is the definition of beginning a new era. Right? That like in software development, you've got, something dot something dot something. That first digit is something called a breaking change, right? That means that something has to break. It's like a muscle. You got to break it down to rebuild. It's like we are breaking down right now. And I think we can all feel it. But that's part of it. Like that's really part of it. It's the potato breaking down in the soup. It's all becoming something delicious, hopefully. And it's just a matter of time before someone reaches in and grabs potato. But that's it. That's what it is about on my mind, is just accepting realities. And it's like, if someone doesn't understand that a literal governing council member saying these exact same things, if at that point they don't go, maybe there's something to this retail thing. I don't know. Like, you're fucked at that point. you gotta just floor it and get out of here. 'Cause you're not going to like what's next. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, Jake, like I very much appreciate you stopping by, and in all seriousness, like your insights and dedication to the community is like so important. I don't know what we do without you, and what you're doing with the Grelf project and everything like that. I mean, the definition of dedication is coming on this show and doing the Grelf voice for over an hour and a half. Like that's what it really boils down to. It's the small stuff. It's the little guy. It's those are the things, it's the details. Those are the things that are going to bring the network forward. So really, really appreciate you, man, and everything you do in the ecosystem.
No, I mean, and same to you. I love the show. Of course I love being on it. And, yeah, it's not just two wackos saying a bunch of stuff they don't know anything about. Okay. I don't know how much legitimacy I bring to the table, but, we got Rob there backing us up.
Exactly.
And, let's make that soup.
Let's do it. Hell yeah. Let's do it. All right.
Don't wear gloves.
No gloves. We're raw dogging that soup.
We're raw dogging it. We're going to get all sorts of arm hair in there.
Jesus. Okay, man. I, again, super appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. And then I'm going to try to get through a couple other news stories here. Take care, man.
See ya.
Wow. All right. What a great convo. We had a chat with Brady from Bonzo Finance. We had a chat with Jake from the Grelf project, aka WarlockNKey. And we talked about a lot. And I think that's really, I think that Jake hit it really well. That's what this show is about. It's not really about so much what I'm thinking and feeling. It's like, here's what the community's feeling. I pay attention to the community a lot, and I talk to a lot of enterprise folks and stuff. And on this show, I really try and just reflect that back a little bit, synthesize that a little bit for people. I had some news stories I want to get into. I don't have much longer. I got to wind down the show soon, but let's chat about a few things really quickly. One thing that I think grabbed people's attention was the fact that Hedera transactions dropped way down for a period of time. We've seen this before. I don't think it's any real cause for alarm. The Metrica dashboard is busted a little bit, but we see these types of things happen. These are Atma transactions, Atma IO, turning things on and off, testing stuff. They're subsidized transactions, so it dipped there. I don't think it's any cause for alarm. What else is going on? I guess the last two things I wanted to mention. The first thing is, and I think this is really, really important. I'd encourage people to dive into this, but we talked about patches on the show just a few hours ago. Patches, there's a new HIP 991 coming, and it's a fixed fee system for submitting messages to a topic. For anyone interested in stuff like Hashinals or how Hedera Consensus Service topics are managed, this is definitely one to check out. When I was in LA and I actually met Mance and had a chat with him, his whole thing is like, Hedera Consensus Service, HCS, is the gateway drug for enterprise. And so I think that what this HIP does is it gives more ways for people to build on that and build out some more of that infrastructure and move that value around. Because that's a big issue, is like, if that service is going to be used a lot, both at a small scale and a big scale, it's like, how do people get paid for what they build? So that's what this HIP is about, is if you've got a rock and topic ID that's used in a, high profile application or something, it's like, and people want to put stuff in it, how do they pay you? There's no built-in way to do that on Hedera right now. So that HIP 991, go check that out. Definitely. And then the last thing to chat about is just recent activity with the SEC. We saw recently the head of crypto at the SEC, David Hirsch, leave the SEC, which was a bit of a shock. And then join Pump.Fun, which is a degen crypto platform. So big shakeups, obviously, at the SEC. And that was an interesting one to kind of see. And then also what we saw was Ethereum surviving the SEC. Consensus, the group that is fighting for Ethereum, basically says, today, we're happy to announce a major win for Ethereum developers, technology providers, and industry participants. The enforcement division of the SEC has notified us that it's closing its investigation into Ethereum 2.0. So that was huge. That's a huge pressure off. And I think a great way to summarize these recent events was a post by Ncash official, who is, I would say, an HBARbarian as well. This individual tweets a lot about HBAR, but shares some screenshots of some articles, of course, some of these headlines that I think grabbed a few eyeballs. And what Nick says essentially is everyone was bearish for the past 48 hours. Meanwhile, this is what's happening behind the scenes. If we get the Ethereum ETF approval around July 1st to July 4th, then this only supports my thought process on altcoins starting to go crazy from the beginning of July. You can almost feel the pressure building behind Ethereum and altcoins as Bitcoin remains flat in its chop zone. I don't care about being right time frame wise, but it's almost impossible to deny the fact that altcoins will steal the show when it's time. We didn't even come close to having euphoria around alts, and most altcoins are still flat down significantly from their all-time highs, let alone their March highs, or HBAR. Don't lose focus. The game is rigged against you. It's made to make you fumble the bag, right? I think that's kind of what we were touching on with Jake earlier as well. You know, that's really what's happening right now. Is you got to figure out where your head's at. You got to get straight with that stuff, because this is where opportunity lies. And yeah, so that was quite a show. And I know that, the theme of the show, the end of an era for Hedera. I think that that's what this is about. We're embarking now on, ending a bit of a chapter. And it's not something I'm saying. It's not something all of us are feeling. It's literally something that not only, as we saw, governing council members speak to and reference also the co-founder of this network, Mance Harmon, talking about a Hedera 2.0. I think that at this point, we can all accept that this network is set to change. And I think that that's an incredibly positive thing. And I just think that a lot of the anxiety around that is the unknown. What is that? Right. And I think that's what this is about. This is opportunity. And for me, I definitely agree with Jake. This is the most bullish I've been on this network. Feels like in a long time because of that chaos a little bit. It's a little bit chaotic. And I've been talking about Hedera needs a little bit of that. It's the same kind of vibe as like changing their profile picture to a giraffe. It's that kind of stuff. We need to start having some of those things. It's just what we need. It's not me saying it. It's not folks on the show saying it. It's everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean from folks that just hold HBAR, people participating in the ecosystem, governing council members, leadership. I think that this is something that is just happening. And it's an opportunity to lead, right? We talk about leadership in the ecosystem. I think that's the community. So anyways, hugely appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is a great episode. A lot of people mentioned to me as well, like the show's long. I think the majority of people enjoy it. I mean, it's live. I think long form conversation is important, but I am doing clips. It's funny. It's harder to do shorter clips. I'm doing a lot. I'm doing about, maybe 3 to 5, 5 to 10 minute clips for every episode on some of the different key topics, chopping out different parts of interviews. So stay tuned for those. I drop those throughout the week, but a lot of folks are really like, oh, can we get, the minute clips? Can we get the short, snappy tight clips and stuff. Those are really hard to make. So what I would say is, as I kind of work towards being able to do that stuff, I give permission to anybody watching the show or anything like that. Download the show, do your own clips. Like, please feel free to, use content on the show and share it. I do it. I share clips from the HBAR Bulls show all the time. So if people really want that stuff, like, you've got my permission, go for it. Chop up clips, share it around if it can be helpful. Would really appreciate that, because I agree. Just can't do it quite yet with my time, but I think it's needed. So if anyone's interested in that, like, just literally just message me. Like, if you're like, I need to download the episode or whatever. I think you can use like YouTube downloaders and different stuff. But I'll happily just send you the copy of the show and edit it up, make your clips and stuff like that. So by all means. And with that, quite a week. And I think we got quite a few weeks ahead. It's by the sounds of it. Quick shout out to Bonzo Finance. And Brady had to run. Check out their INO. Also too, like Serial Finance, H-Liquidity, also borrowing and lending platforms coming. Shout out to Jake and the Grelf project and everybody. We got a bunch of awesome stuff happening. Oh, actually, Jesus, Murphy, I forgot to do something really important. I just started giving community shout outs. Cancel that. I got to do one thing real quick. I can't believe I forgot to do this. Everyone tuning in, this is important. I totally forgot to do this. We got carried away in the conversations. Wanted to give a few community shout outs really quick, and then we'll end the show. So I asked people like, hey, I want to highlight some stuff. So people shared some stuff. Kabila has their INO coming. So make sure to check that out. They've got their academy, which is, I think, a really great place to learn about Hedera, how to build, all that kind of stuff. So please go check that out. And they've got their INO coming. What else we got? Wild Tigers NFT project. Are NFTs dead on Hedera? I don't think so. We got some projects coming up. Looks pretty cool. Trade games. This is one that seems pretty cool. So our platform is only in its beta launch, but that isn't stopping us giving away 10,000 HBAR every week. So it looks like this is a platform. It says the world's first real-time multiplayer simulated crypto trading game built on Hedera. That seems pretty cool, especially for people new to this stuff, a place to play around. PixFi. Founder tokens are launching 26th of June, 9 a.m. Pacific. We had Tom on the show last week. Make sure to watch that episode and don't miss that mint. It looks like that's going to be a big one. So the 26th of June, just days away, guys. And also too, Hedera, Solana, Ethereum, and Polygon. They're going to be able to take not just HBAR payments, but like payments for all other ecosystems. The Bonzo Finance INO, shout out to Crystal. Batty Hattie, talk about OGs. Pixel Drops 2 will be a free mint. Keep an eye out for that. Bonzo Finance, of course, another shout out. Head Starter, they've got a lot of stuff going on. Lots of INOs. It's pretty crazy to see what Head Starter is doing. I did the Citadel Wallet Nights. I did the Bonzo Finance NFTs. I did a couple others. Super smooth. The Earthlings, lots of good stuff. Dig it. Bonzo Finance again. Coinman, the HBARbarian. HSuite just redid their interfaces for their platform, version 2. Saw it. Looks sick. Check it out. What else is going on? HBARbarian token. Not financial advice. Who knows? HMonkey's Mint 3 is tomorrow, which is today. So check that out. Someone is going to release the meme coin on Hedera. So stay tuned for the meme coin, I guess, coming. So there we go. Didn't want to miss that. Got way too busy this week on the show. But yeah, the end of an era. It's exciting. It's scary. It's freaky. But it is what it is. And I'm seeing a lot of good signs. This is a great conversation today. I really appreciate Brady and Jake coming by. Yeah. You know what? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Hope other people are too. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Hello, future. Goodbye, past.
Thanks for listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show, hosted by Brandon Davenport.
Listen to past episodes and support the show at itsbrandond.com/hbar.